Alright, so y'all remember all of the fuss that was going on about the Sue Surf paperwork over the last year? Everybody talking about he didn't snitch. They all agreed to cooperate. Some people, of course, holding him accountable. But for the most part, fans of battle rap, fans of Sue Surf were saying that this was an agreement made by him and his co-defendants to all go in here and say, hey, this is what it is. One of his co-defendants actually even spoke out. These people got so invested in this that they went to his co-defendant and hit him up. And he spoke out and said, hey, my brother's solid and he ain't tell. Only niggas that ain't street don't understand that it's either trial or cop out. Bro, even if you not street, you know that you either go to trial or cop out. It's one of those two things. But niggas always trying to sound hip. Anyway, we all copped out to what we did individually. You heard what he said? We all copped out to what we did individually. That's how the feds work. It's not the same system as the state. You don't have to implicate anybody but yourself at your plea hearing. Do some research and you'll get your evidence back in that. Once again, though, the bloggers are just being what they are. Civilians trying to make money off, people's stories, talking about it, whatever. He tried to make it sound cool. Now, even though he said you don't have to incriminate anybody else when you plead, in the actual plea transcripts, they ask Surf from at least in or around 2015 through on or about September 22nd, 2022, were you a member and associates of the Rolling 60s neighborhood Crips gang, known as the Rolling 60s or the Enterprise? And he says yes. And they said, did the Rolling 60s operate in the District of New Jersey? And he says yes. And they said, did the Enterprise have rules, traditions, and protocols that you were required to follow as a member, of the Enterprise? And he says yes. And throughout this proceeding, they mentioned the Rolling 60s having a hierarchy. There are other documents in which, these documents, they say that Big U was, they big homie, basically. He was a target in their investigation, and multiple members identified him as the biggest brother or something along those lines, basically saying that they were taking their orders from Big U. This is what the government is alleging. When this paperwork dropped, it's clear as day to me and a lot of other people, but a lot of other people were saying, no, that's not snitching. He's just copping out to what he did. And the co-defendant even came out and said, no, we only pleaded out to what we did individually. But once again, when you look at the paperwork, they said, were you a Rolling 60? Yes. Did the Rolling 60s operate? That right there is talking on more than just yourself. Once you do that, you talking on more than just yourself, because you're saying, yeah, the whole gang operates in this area. During the time that you were a member, did you knowingly conspire, that is, agree with other members and associates of the Enterprise to commit at least 2 criminal acts in furtherance of the Enterprise? That's not just yourself. The word conspire requires more than one person. So once you say you conspired with other members of the Enterprise and the gang, then that's a conspiracy. You incriminating somebody else. Now, you got some people that say, oh, well, they didn't say no names. He didn't say anybody's name. And they all took this. This was like a uniform plea. Anyway, fast forward now, 2026. Sue Surf's co-defendant, Jason Franklin, is now attempting to get back into the courtroom. One of the key things, look, you see right there, nature of crime, racketeering, conspiracy. That's why they asked Surf, did you conspire with us? Because racketeering, conspiracy. So basically the people that's on that document that are listed as your co-defendants, those are your co-conspirators. When you plead out to racketeering, conspiracy and say, yes, I conspire with other members, you are not just answering the questions about your case, but you answering the charges that's in front of you. So for everybody that's saying he didn't say no names, he didn't have to, because they were already listed and charged in the indictment. Anyway, Sue Surf's co-defendant, Jason Franklin, is now attempting to get back in court, like I was saying. And the key thing that he is arguing is he was not supposed to plead guilty to racketeering. If you look at the exact language, it starts off with him actually saying, hey, I wasn't supposed to plead guilty to racketeering. Specifically, it states, my attorney, Anthony Ayakula, however you say his name, misled me to enter a plea to only count one in the indictment of the racketeering conspiracy. I'm not sure if other counts were included without me being fully aware. He conspired with the United States against me. I'm actually innocent in this case, and I will prove herein. So he is now trying to challenge the racketeering charge, saying that the lawyer misled him into pleading guilty to that racketeering charge. Now, let's break this whole little thing down. When they questioned Freak during his plea hearing, they asked him, were you a member of the Rolling 60s? Did the Rolling 60s operate in New Jersey? Were there procedures and protocols that you were required to follow as a member of the enterprise? Were there rules that you had to follow? He says yes. During that time, did you normally conspire or agree with other members? Yes, the same stuff that Sue Surf said. Now, if you look at the indictment actually states that the history of, this gang, the rules and organizations of this gang, it originated in the west side of South Los Angeles and now operates in numerous states, including but not limited to California, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, and New Jersey. Members and associates of the enterprise of New Jersey operate under the label umbrella Silverback Gorilla or SBG. It then goes on to describe the territory that these New Jersey guys claimed and operated in. It lists a couple of members. Shortly after that, it goes into the position of these members. And in this, it says that Franklin was a senior member whose responsibility was to communicate with leaders in other states, including California and Pennsylvania, and issue orders to lower members. When they questioned him during his sentencing, after they got his factual basis, they came back and asked the government, you got anything you want to say? They said, yeah, the Rolling 60s is a criminal enterprise. And they also stated that the Rolling 60s has a hierarchy, and a structure. And they says that they have, this is the exact language they use because I don't want to sound like I'm rambling. It says that the members and associates engaged in a pattern of racketeering and that the Crips gang is a structured entity. The Rolling 60s is a structured entity with a core of personnel that has remained intact through the years. Basically, right there saying that the core personnel of these guys, the OGs, the big homies, they have been intact and running this thing for years. So right there in that short thing, they connected these New Jersey guys to California, and they made a personal link because they said Jason Franklin, Freak himself, is the guy who was responsible for communicating with these guys out of California. When you look at the actual paperwork, it says the investigation has revealed that Henley uses an Instagram account, Big U, and he holds a national leadership role. He is also heavily involved in the music industry. In 2021, he visited Crescent Lane, which is these New Jersey guys' neighborhood, and they responded by making this Instagram post. They took a picture, posted it to Instagram. Now, in this search warrant, they describe how these guys were communicating with other guys in reference to Big U being there, and they were calling him the honcho. It says that further review of social media records reveals that Henley is a Facebook friend with Franklin. Franklin used his account to message other enterprise members and invite them to meet with him and Big U. And that same day, he posted saying, Big U is my biggest brother. Based on my training and experience, this is the officer saying this. Based on my training and experience, I recognize Franklin's posting serves as evidence of Henley's involvement. From writing from LA to Irvington shows that the two gangs are connected. Further, I know that members and associates use this and use SBG And by calling Big U his biggest brother, Franklin was identifying Big U as a senior member of the enterprise. So they not just saying in the indictment that Franklin was communicating with other leaders. They have done an investigation, and based on their investigation, they have determined that Big U is that guy. They just didn't put Big U's name in the paperwork because they were actually doing a separate investigation on him as well at the time. And they probably didn't want to, just put it all out there, but they didn't identify him by name. The indictment says by others known and unknown. They conspire with others known and unknown. But the actual investigation paperwork reveals that one of those people was allegedly Big U, and that the police had determined that Big U was their big homie based on the investigation. With that being said, once Franklin went in there and said, yeah, I'm a member of the Rolling 60s. Yeah, we operate in New Jersey. Yeah, we have rules, traditions, and protocols that we have to follow. He was basically saying, yeah, I'm a member, but I'm not the leader. We have to follow traditions and protocols. That's stuff that was established before us. This is why the government came right back and said, yeah, the Rolling 60s Crips is a criminal enterprise. They have activities that affect interstate commerce, and they have members and associates, or they said that they are a structured entity with a core personnel which has remained intact through the years. So they were establishing right there that these New Jersey guys are members, but they just members. It's actually a group of people that are above them. And once he admitted to that, then he basically confirmed what was in the investigation paperwork. I had this debate with Whack 100 on Twitter, and he tried to tell me that's not how it goes. But this is where the proof actually comes out. Jason Franklin is now trying to have his conviction reversed, right? He now saying, hey, I wasn't supposed to plead guilty to racketeering. And I'm assuming that he has now realized that by pleading guilty to that, he incriminated Big U and a bunch of other people. And I'm assuming that he knows that because by these other guys pleading guilty to their situations, guys such as Sue Surf saying, yeah, I take orders, we have a procedure and protocols we have to follow. They incriminated Freak because Freak was alleged to be the head of the New Jersey faction. On ground 2, it says, trial counsel was constitutionally ineffective, violating petitioners' 5th and 6th Amendment federal constitutional rights to effective assistance of counsel. Again, trial counsel was constitutionally ineffective, violating petitioners' 5th and 6th Amendment federal constitutional rights. Specifically, counsel did erroneously mislead petitioner to enter a plea of guilty, and that petitioner can prove that he is actually innocent, where indicted co-conspirators Elijah Williams, Kareem Green, Najee Johnson, Amir Edmonds, Amir Ward, and Taheem Terry have all come back now and signed affidavits saying that Franklin was not a gang member, nor was he a leader. The only person they don't mention is Sue Surf, and I'm assuming that is because Surf is now free and no longer subject to the politics of prison. But now that this paperwork has surfaced and it's coming out, these guys are coming back signing affidavits saying, hey, dude didn't send a message to anyone named co-conspirator 1 or any co-conspirator 1 to distribute or bring to him illegal drugs. He's not a gang member. He's not a gang leader. And he got affidavits from all of these guys. Now, y'all know the Lil Durk lyric. The lawyer got them affidavits. They better sign them all. Because niggas got to sign them affidavits. Once you say something to incriminate somebody, you got to come back and sign that affidavit and clear that up unless you want to be labeled a rat. These dudes are now signing affidavits saying he's not a gang leader. He's not a gang leader. He didn't order us to do anything. Why would they be required to do that if their pleas didn't incriminate him? You see what I'm saying? It's just it's simple logic. If nothing that I said, y'all saw Sue Surf's co-defendant message, you don't have to incriminate anybody. Okay, if nothing you said incriminated Jason Franklin, why would you be signing an affidavit coming back saying that he's not a gang member and that he wasn't a gang leader. You basically coming back saying all of that stuff that I said wasn't true. And the reason why I think they are doing this is because they have now, like I said, the shit didn't surface. I don't even think there are some who would argue that these guys really didn't know what they were pleading out to in the process that it would be. They didn't know that. But I don't believe that. I believe that they knew what they were doing all along. It's just now, the shit didn't hit the fan. Everybody knows what happened. The paperwork is out now. And some of these guys trying to save face. And, I believe Freak is now trying to back out of his shit because he realizes that, hey, I have incriminated Big U in a situation. So now if Big U goes to trial and they start talking about he's a rolling 60 leader and all of this shit, they're going to have to bring in something to back that up. And it could be some internet shit, or they could call in Jason Franklin, who has already said on the record that, the information in count 1 of the indictment is true, which means that he has acknowledged that he was taking orders from Big U as the government alleged in their investigation, and that he distributed those orders to other guys, basically saying Big U is responsible for all of the shit that they was doing, and the only way for him to get out of that is for Sue Surf and the other guys to get him out of the situation that he in. Because by them all passing it off, saying, yeah, he's a gang member, he's a gang leader, we took orders from him, then that puts him in a situation where he's stuck now. Now, people would question why Surf didn't sign an affidavit as well. I personally think Surf didn't sign one because he don't want to risk taking his ass back to jail. If you come back and say everything that I said in my guilty plea was a lie and all of this shit, now you voiding the plea and your ass is going back to jail. These guys already locked up, so they don't stand to lose anything. I mean, the government could say, we don't want to accept y'all pleas no more. Now let's go to trial, because all of these guys pleaded guilty to being gang members and said that they took orders. They said that count 1 was true. Everyone who pleaded guilty said that count 1 was true. So when the government said y'all a gang, Freak the leader, Freak report to Big U, then everybody who pleaded guilty was saying that was true. Now they are coming back and saying that's not true, meaning that they committed perjury or something when they was pleading guilty. And but ask yourself, if these guys didn't incriminate him and they didn't incriminate nobody, why would they take the risk? Why would they be risking having to go back to court and go back to trial if they didn't do anything wrong? You know why they taking that risk, in my opinion? Because they did some bogus shit. And it's come to the light. So now we can't, it's not like nigga snitched and nobody knows. You know what I'm saying? Y'all snitched and people know y'all snitched. So now, it's a lot of questions. What's up, bro? What the fuck is going on? One of the biggest questions is, why did y'all incriminate that man? Big U didn't have nothing to do with nothing y'all had going on. But by going in there and just pleading guilty to everything, yeah, we did it. Y'all pleaded guilty to that whole investigation. By pleading guilty to count 1, you pleaded guilty to that whole investigation. Not a single one of these guys went in there and said, yeah, we guilty of this, but we didn't do this. And, everybody, yeah, we rolling 60s. Yeah, we got leaders and protocol we got to follow. Yeah, we conspire with other members. Yeah, it started in California. Yeah, we communicate with people from California to get our orders. All of that shit is basically, you can find something that equates to that and just, you got to translate it. But that's what it comes down to. And I really feel like a lot of these guys were going to just do that shit. But then once the paperwork dropped and it hit the fan and it's a topic now, people like, damn, what's up with that paperwork? And now they seeing it and they like, damn, you really did say that. And like I said, bro, some people will argue that these guys didn't know. Some people will argue that they didn't know what they was doing. because the court didn't put it out in, hey, so you basically saying that you a gang member and you take orders from him and he take orders from Big U and all y'all be conspiring with each other. Because they didn't put it in those words, people try to play dumb like they don't know what they saying. But I strongly believe these niggas knew what they was doing, man. It's just now Big U is getting ready to go to trial. You know, and all of this shit is on the record. Not just him going to trial, but shit, Freak. You went in there and incriminated this man and took this plea, and you got 30-something years anyway. You know what I'm saying? You got 30-something years anyway, bro. You could have just went in there like, man, I ain't no gang member. I plead guilty to what y'all saying, but this shit ain't had nothing to do with no gang shit or no racketeering shit. Because the more you put that label on it, you just passing off responsibility. You giving them a foundation to go start investigating other people. This is what I was explaining all along. And everybody was saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. And showing this shit from his co-defendant saying, oh, well, we didn't incriminate nobody. We just pleaded guilty to our own. Y'all didn't, bro. Y'all incriminated everybody. And now y'all coming back and trying to clean it up. Y'all have to clean it up. Y'all, in order for Freak, Jason Franklin, to prove that he is actually innocent, he has to get affidavits from these guys saying, no, he's not a gang leader. No, he didn't order me to do anything. That's because they originally said he did. So he has to get them to clear his name in order to try to convince the court that he's innocent, even though they never said his name during the plea hearings. You see what I'm saying? They never said each other's name, but they didn't have to because the courts identified them as the Rolling 60s or the Enterprise. So even though none of these guys ever said his name specifically, they all have to sign affidavits in order to help him clear his name. Because the things that they said incriminated him. Not one of those guys in their plea hearing said, yeah, Jason Franklin is the leader. Not in those exact words. But when they went in there and said, yeah, everything, each and every element of count one is true and can be proven, then they said, yeah, Jason Franklin is the leader. And he take orders from Big U. I know some of y'all don't understand this because y'all haven't been through the system, but y'all got to start listening, bro. Y'all be so locked in on trying to argue for these guys because y'all like they raps or y'all like their personality or persona or whatever. But sometimes just sit back and listen. It's the truth. It's the truth. Now, if these guys didn't incriminate him and they were just signing this to help, why didn't Surf sign one? If nothing that Surf said incriminated this dude and he was just signing it to help, why not sign one? You know why I think he didn't sign one? Because signing one would be basically taking his guilty plea back. And he doesn't want to do that. He's free. The other guys, they in prison. They have to take him back. They don't have to, because they could just, but now, like I said, you subjected to, the prison politics. This paperwork get in the wrong hands or the right hands, and this shit get to floating around, and people come to question you about it, and it's like, yeah, I did it. Now you're asking, you might be, but if you can say, oh, yeah, I didn't know, man, and we did affidavits, they tricked us, and now it sounds cool. You see what I'm saying? He was talking all this, everybody seen my paperwork good. And man, y'all niggas incriminated each other. Y'all niggas incriminated Freak. Freak incriminated Big U. And now this shit is all coming out. Because Freak is now coming back saying, hey, I'm actually innocent. I'm not a gang member. I'm not a gang leader. And in order to prove this, he has to get statements from his co-defendants saying that because they already done said the opposite. I'm interested to see how this gonna play out. I know the battle rap community probably gonna try to sweep this under the rug. Hitman Holla a snitch. He on body cam snitching. They acting like that shit didn't even happen. So the battle rap community is probably gonna try to sweep this under the rug. They gonna find some way to attack the credibility of the messenger instead of actually saying, well, damn, this makes sense. But for the most part, the world not skipping over that shit. And they haven't been, which is why we seeing what we seeing right now. I'm pretty sure somebody looked at Freak's paperwork and said, no, that shit ain't right, bro. They did you wrong. You know what I'm saying? And not knowing that he himself did the same thing to somebody else, which is why the idea of signing an affidavit came up. But I ain't gonna hold y'all too long. I just wanted to bring y'all this update, let y'all know this is what's going on for all the niggas who were saying we all agreed to take a plea. That's not true. For the niggas who saying his plea didn't incriminate anybody, that's not true. They all pleaded guilty the same way to the same terms. They was asked the same questions and they all said yes to that shit. And like I told y'all, they just passed it up. Freak has to get affidavits from his co-defendants and those guys under him because they are the ones who incriminated him as being a gang leader and a gang member. Aside from him admitting to the shit when he took his plea, but you know, they incriminated him in they pleas, which is why they had to sign affidavits. And they probably just, you know, they not rappers and shit. Y'all be thinking these rap niggas is like, rappers get a pass in the feds, literally. A nigga will be like, man, what you on? And it's not because people be fanned out. It's just because you high profile. So anything that we do to you is going to get noticed. Y'all see all these rap niggas always writing letters. How many of those letters do you see come from regular people just locked up? It's always a rap nigga. Oh, they mistreating us down here because people think because they have a platform and a certain amount of followers and viewers that they can bring attention to shit and that attention will make things change, you know? And on the flip side of that, niggas in jail look at that like you snitching because if it's corrupt in this motherfucker, chances are it's an inmate who got a hold of that corruption, you know? So you need to find him and get up with him and learn how to move, you know what I'm saying? Or you need to get your own bag up so you can get in on the corruption or shut the hell up. Because all that, oh, they treating us bad and all that shit is snitching. Straight up. But yeah, man, I'm going to wrap this one up, man. I'll be back with more on this. I got some more documents, actually, I want to show y'all. But for the most part, I had to bring y'all this part first and let y'all see them boys is changing their story now. Now it went from we all took a plea, we signed to take our own shit to now niggas is acknowledging that they said something to incriminate they people and they got to sign affidavits to clear it up. And we're going to get our hands on these affidavits too. Don't sleep. We're going to be showing y'all these affidavits so y'all can see exactly what they have to say and what's being corrected and changed about what they pleaded out to. I'm going to wrap this one up. Hit that hype button before you get up out of here. Hit that like button before you get up out of here, man. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that YouTube stuff. Make sure you go subscribe to Articulate Concepts. That's the podcast. When we get to 1,000 subscribers over there, we're going to drop our first episode. Y'all know it's going to be exclusive. We got everything set up, all of that. Y'all, if y'all looking for 1090 Jake Exposed, it's no longer on YouTube. We'll probably drop some here and there just to let y'all know it still exists and where to find it. But for the most part, you got to go sign up for the Patreon. I'll put the link to that in the comments as well. I'm out.